Check. And Vivaan added from the batch of 25. the Junior Club Coordinator of Public Policy Club, welcoming you to the Public Policy Summit. Now, the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade Kolkata campus is honored to welcome Mr. Tuhin A and Mr. Avik Sarkar as our distinguished guest speakers for this flagship program under Vivaan 9.0, the flagship annual business conclave of IIFT Kolkata. I'd like to invite our SECs to felicitate the honored guests. A brief introduction to the esteemed guests here. Mr. Tuhin Sinha is a versatile individual whose creative talents have made profound impact in literature, politics, and content strategy. He is an author, columnist, and he currently serves as the national spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Since 2006, he has authored 10 captivating books spanning a diverse range of genres. Notably, he is credited with pioneering political thrillers in contemporary Indian writing, with works like Of Love and Politics, The Edge of Desire, and The Edge of Power, earning critical acclaim for the compelling narratives and thought-provoking themes. Mr. Tuhin's commitment extends to nurturing political awareness among youth like us through enlightening talk series at renowned management colleges like XLRI and IIFT Kolkata. Beyond his roles in literature and politics, Mr. Tuhin has ventured into television screenwriting and contributed thought-provoking columns to television and esteemed publications like the Times of India and the NITI. Additionally, he is the founder of Right Quotient, specializing in content craft and creatives. Welcome, sir.
I would now like to give a brief introduction about Dr. Sarkar. Dr. Avik Sarkar is a prominent figure in the world of data science and technology. His remarkable achievements has left an indelible mark on the industry, earning recognition and accolades throughout his career. In 2017, he was honored as one of the top 10 data scientists in India by the Analytics India magazine, a testament to his exceptional expertise in the field. Furthermore, his insightful contributions on platforms like LinkedIn led to his nomination as a LinkedIn influencer in the technology space in 2015. Masters in Applied Statistics from IIT Bombay, he has been the head of data analytics cell at NITI Aayog and has also been a member with the Indian data sets of AI under Ministry of Electronics and IT. He is currently the faculty at the Indian School of Business and is involved in the subjects like big data, AI, and public policy. It is an honor to have you here with us, sir. The underlying theme of the summit, India's digital diplomacy and sustainable world, which focuses on fact on how India can achieve its sustainable goals as the world moves towards multipolarity. The evolution of digital technology and diplomatic strategies plays a crucial role in shaping the global landscape, and India is at the forefront of this digital transformation. As the summit unfolds, the students of IIFT will have the unique opportunity to absorb invaluable insights, engage in meaningful conversations, and gain a deeper understanding of what it means to lead in this ever evolving world. We would like to invite Dr. Khan to initiate the panel discussion.
And thanks for the kind introduction. Thanks very much. Yes, so some of you are there, and I think it's a very pertinent topic that you have picked up for this discussion, digital diplomacy. I'm so glad that Finn is there today, so I can talk and focus more on the technical aspect, and we can focus on the diplomacy aspect. That is fine. So, given I'm a faculty, let me wear the professor hat for some time and ask you a few questions. Is that fine? When we talk about digital diplomacy, one term comes up quite a lot, CPI. Any idea what it is? Yeah. Digital Performance Index. That's good. Anyone else? Digital Public Infrastructure Code. Anyone else? So it's digital public infrastructure that we are going to base this discussion on. And it's three words, digital public infrastructure. So let me first start with that I, infrastructure. When I take the term infrastructure, what comes to your mind? And everything, I want to hear from you. So that's how we can build up on the discussion. And you will get a more good understanding of what we want mean to tell to you. What comes to your mind when you hear the word infrastructure? Anyone? Right or wrong? The digital tech stack of India. No, only infrastructure. Not digital infrastructure. Only infrastructure when I tell you, it can. So tell me what is infrastructure. Give me some examples of infrastructure.
I mean, on the lines of digital infrastructure that we have. So, on the lines of digital infrastructure that we have. So, like for UPI, we have a digital tech stack that is
ये क्या होता है रटा हुआ चीज़ है तो बाद में आएंगे उसपे जब बोलता हूँ comes to your mind.
and roadways and bridges that go.
Very good, very good. That's what I want to hear. So buildings, roadways are infrastructure. Anyone else? Anyone else want to talk about what other infrastructure comes to their mind? Yes, please.
Airports and be like bridges, like that's not part of the
Ports.
airport.
Yes, so ports, airports, seaport, railway station, bus station, these are all infrastructure. Anyone else talk about roads and headings? Anyone else wants to add to it? Anything you can tell.
The fiber networks, towers.
Very good, very good. Yes, please give a hand for you. Really nice. Anyone else? Very, very good. I think I'm seeing. Sorry. Schools, very good. Give a clap for him. What are the infrastructure needs that we have? Schools, and with that, I am adding another one: hospitals. These are infrastructure needs that we have. Roads. The gentleman on the first road told about it. So all of these are there now. All the examples that we took till now: roads, railway stations, airports, then fiber networks. Who has developed it in India? In the Indian context, who has developed it? Government of India. Everyone agrees. So when we talk about infrastructure, and that is where I think the whole base of this discussion going down, why we are talking about it. When we talk of infrastructure, it is by default expected that the government collects tax from the citizens and they develop infrastructure for the citizens. Okay. Now let's come to digital infrastructure. Okay. Think about what are the digital activities that you do on a day-to-day active basis and what sort of infrastructure is required for that. Now I would like to come to the digital infrastructure. So till now we are talking about physical infrastructure or infrastructure in general. Now let's go to digital infrastructure. Anything else?
The various networks which are created 5G, 4G, or the UPI. Basically, the infrastructure through which we can ease the process of communication between the citizens at various levels, whether it is financial, social, or interaction.
Okay. Studying that is very important. The network, the 5G network, the fiber network, and other things. And who comes that will come to that in a few more names to India mentions into it. things were to do digitally. Yes, things. Very good, very good. So today more data has data or interaction has to stay on a server. Data source. So we have looked at them. If you come up with applications, you use emails. What email server do you use? Gmail. Email is a thing that you use. What other things you do? You do social media. What social media do you do? And you do Instagram, you do Facebook, and this is our basic needs, daily needs today. So anyone else wants to add to this thing? Yes.
So about 26 people. And yeah, UPI and net banking also.
Good. These are very good examples.
Aadhaar card verification online.
I will come to that. That is the DPI part. We are talking about digital infrastructure. Digital infrastructure are stuff like we talked about the 5G network, the band, the spectrum, sorry, the 5G spectrum, the 4G spectrum, that is our key infrastructure. The other thing we do on a day-to-day basis is sending emails, interacting on social media. Emails that we do, most of us use Gmail. I think if you go to any government ministry in Bengal or in the central, you will see the minister using a Gmail ID instead of the Gov29, and it's very common. Now, this is the infrastructure that is not been provided by the government. This has been provided by a private company. What you are doing on the social media, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, on Snapchat, or any other platform on TikTok, this is all private companies that are creating infrastructure to do that. They are private companies. They will have their own private motive, and that is where the thought and need for digital public infrastructure came in, because we are seeing a large part of our daily digital infrastructure or digital needs is fulfilled by private players. So that is the basis of the discussion here. And then going a way forward, India has taken large steps in creating digital public infrastructure, and that is some of the ones that he spoke about. So if you're doing online shopping, the leading players in India are Flipkart and Amazon. We have ONDC to as a coming from the government end to do that. If you have to say swipe a card or transfer money, the validation is done by two US companies, Mastercard and Visa. They are the payment approvers. So instead of them, we can have someone like as a RuPay or an UPI validating your transaction. Coming from a private company to the government end. And here a range of things comes in. We talked about schools. The schools impart education. And if you're talking about a similar thing, say you want to learn online education, what are the online education portals you are aware of? Give me some name. Udemy, Coursera, yes, and agree by this. So all of them are my private things. The only one when you heard one of the name was SWAYAM. SWAYAM is to the Indian government. But SWAYAM is relatively much smaller than all the other ones we are talking about. Say Coursera and one name to the name of Coursera. So again, when you go into a particular domain, all the services, digital services in that domain is provided by private players. And Indian government is trying to go spin route by creating the platform SWAYAM and NPTEL. Which is a platform for learning courses. Yes, you can go into each sector and you will see is a need for the government to come in. Aspect of diplomacy when it comes. Aadhaar. Can a Facebook or a WhatsApp give you a digital identity and that will be accepted by other people? So Aadhaar is something that the government has to give. Now, Aadhaar, biometric based authentication is something that is very, very unique in India, done for 1.4 million population. No other country has done some technology of this nature globally. Now, many of you have heard the name of MOSIN. Search for MOSIP, MOSIP. It's a open source, modular, open source identity platform. That's the full form of MOSIP. It is there in 25 countries across the world, where India has developed the tech base for it on similar lines of Aadhaar, and it has been given as open source for 25 other countries to adopt it. Well, it has a total number of user base of 1 million. Outside Aadhaar at 1.4 million in India, most of it just itself 1 million the government globally. The Indian government doesn't talk too much about it. There is a group of private quality organizations based in Bangalore which have developed that. Which have been developing things like UPI platform, the ONDC that you talked about. So there's a lot of work that is happening at the back end that you see. I will just take up one point, and then I will pass on to is that why is India doing that? And this is my tiny view of it, because you will know much deeper into it. Because if the smaller countries who cannot develop this infrastructure, digital infrastructure, rely on someone. The other alternatives are US, which is backed by the large partners. So US government will not go and go on. Maybe MasterCard or Visa will do it, or the Facebook or Google will go out and do some of the activities. Or you are reliant on China, which might give you a loan and then make you their slaves for the next 30 years. So people are seeing this two bipolar, two extreme aspects in the global landscape, and they want someone to come up and save them. That's why, and I think that is where India is emerging as a major player. So I will leave the discussion to here because I just wanted to cover the background of where we are coming from. Infrastructure ideally should be provided by government, but in case of digital infrastructure, we see that a large part of our digital infrastructure, and people also talk about cloud. You see, all the cloud providers in the country, you talk about cloud, or either Amazon or Microsoft or IBM or SAP. You see, no government handling cloud. All your data is on the cloud. So again, all of the aspects which are very critical for a country, we see private players playing a big role. Can government play a role and not only helping its own citizens, but helping other countries also? And that is where the premise of DPI comes in, digital public infrastructure from private to public. How can we share it with other countries? Why will other countries have something that is developed by India? And that is where the diplomacy comes in more prominent. As well as I pass on to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sarkar. At the outset, let me thank the Public Honesty Club for this brilliant initiative. The topic that you've chosen, India's digital diplomacy in a sustainable world, to start off with, that itself is a very impressive topic because 2 decades ago, when we were students, 3 of the words were very alien to us at your stage, at the stage that you were. Digital, I don't know what one would have gathered about the word digital then. Diplomacy, again, personal institution, management institution, or marketing institution talking about diplomacy, that's again laudable. Sustainable. Now, when you talk about sustainable, I would like to expand the scope of the word sustainable, because one is sustainable from an environmental point of view. But I think when you talk about international economy, or when you talk about global economy or global trade, sustainable should also include, sustainability from expansionist forces, sustainability from politically disturbed zones. Modern diplomacy and modern business and modern politics kind of weaves in the three elements which I just mentioned: environment, business, and the larger, you know, um, protection from expansionist forces. And that is where most of India's decisions will take into account all of these factors. But to understand, before we come to the diplomacy part, it is important to understand India's digital journey in the last 10 years. So, Dr. Sarkar just acquainted you with the term DPI. Let me acquaint you with another term which is very critical to this DPI thing in India. How many of you are aware of the full form JAM, which has been instrumental in India's in the creation of India's DPI, digital public infrastructure? Yeah. Jan-Dhan, Aadhaar, and mobile. So if you look at India's digital journey, there was certain, obviously the Aadhaar journey had begun from 2009. But then it was for a largely restricted purpose that involved identity of the citizens, plus to an extent, Manrega, which is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. Sure, all of you are aware of it. A certain number of work days had to be ensured to the poor. That had begun in 2014. Post 2014, Aadhaar has been amplified to another level to include possibly 300 government welfare schemes which have empowered the citizens, especially the poor. But then it has had another effect because the moment consumption increases in that area, rural consumption, it obviously has a huge impact on the overall economy. When it comes to Jan-Dhan, what was it exactly? 50 crore new bank accounts were opened, zero deposit bank accounts. So, like you can imagine the percentage, the vast percentage of people who were out of formal economy at that point of time. Aadhaar, obviously, Aadhaar cards, because it had limited usage. Again, Aadhaar cards were increased exponentially, and probably the number of Aadhaar holders then was about half of what you have now. In all of this, mobile phones became a very critical part because it's very fascinating how you see the evolution of mobile phones from being just an instrument for mobile calling to one where you could use certain other apps like WhatsApp or social media to finally being an all-out instrument for economic empowerment. So if you look at the increase in mobile phones over the last 10 years, I think today India has about 120 crore mobile phone users basically, which is phenomenal considering one has more than one mobile phone. That is how you account for such a large number in a country of 140 crore people. 60 crore of these phones have internet users, and even rural parts, 1 out of 3 phones has internet for it. So what is the impact of it? I'll give you simple examples, like somebody like a widow, a 70-year-old widow who used to travel 20 kilometers far away to obtain her monthly pension. Today, I think there are CSCs, you may be aware of it, I forget the full form of it. Common service centers almost in every village where common service centers have been set up where there are agents, it's an outsourced thing. So that lady can go to these common service centers. She, by her Aadhaar and biometric verification, the pension amount can immediately get transferred to her account. Moreover, instead of her going to a bank through a thumb impression, she can authorize that agent. She can transfer her pension amount to a DigiPay wallet into the account of that CSE, as a result of which the CSE pays her immediately in cash. So imagine instead of traveling 20 kilometers, spending a whole day, and then probably realizing the bank is shut, or probably coming back the other day, all of it is happening within minutes. That's the power of India's digital public infrastructure. And it is happening all across. Probably the COVID pandemic was an important inflection point in our journey, because the way the app was designed and the record time in which 220 crore plus vaccine doses were ensured, that was another huge achievement in our digital journey. Today, how many of you use DigiLockers? Great, that's quite a good number. And have you started using DigiYatra? Brilliant. So DigiYatra and DigiPay, DigiLocker are the latest editions. And when you look at some of the people tweeting about conditions at Heathrow Airport, the kind of mismanagement, I think what we have developed in India today is nothing short of phenomenal. Now, where do we take it from here? And that is where diplomacy becomes very important, or diplomacy becomes a crucial enabler. If you followed the G20, the way G20 summit evolved over the last 1 year with the culmination of the tech summit in Delhi, I think India has utilized it optimally to enhance its digital prowess, its diplomatic prowess, and it has also opened up huge scope for the future. So when you create, or when you are the pioneer of, when India as a country is the pioneer of Global Solar Alliance and now Global Biofuel Alliance, I'm sure it opens up multitudinous opportunities for companies specializing in renewable energy. And if I'm sure these things would be being set up in place, the ease of business over here to ensure that these renewable energy businesses, there is a common window to get clearances for them being set up in India. But also, importantly, as the undisputed leader of the global south today, India's opportunities have got enhanced like never before. And when you talk about global south, obviously, that includes Africa, that includes the whole of Australia, that includes the whole of South America. And even though it's work in progress, I'm sure that is where, if this session serves as an important interface for you, I think that is where you guys need to apply your minds on. That's where the future lies. The India Middle East European corridor, the Global Biofuel Alliance, the Global Solar Alliance. The possibilities are infinite. Like I mentioned at the very start, the word sustainable, while we are all aware of its conventional usage from the point of view of environment, I think it also needs to be expanded today. I don't know how many of you have been following the Israel-Hamas war. I think the word needs to be expanded to sustainable also politically, and sustainable also from the vicious impact of expansionist forces. So I think this is work in progress. In fact, Dr. Sarkar might be in a better position to elucidate on how our digital policy can be extrapolated or expanded to external properties like the India Middle East European corridor or global solar alliance or the global biofuel alliance. So should I just?
Thanks. So personally, what India also has is its strength. So I'll also keep comparing with China when we are talking about the aspect of international diplomacy. Um, what Let me ask, what does China have in excess?
Manufacturing power and
Yes, so they have excess capacity to build things than what they can export or consume, either manufacture or build. So the type of projects that China is taking up in rest of the world is primarily infrastructure project. The Belt and Road Initiative, that is Xi Jinping's green project going from China to the Middle East, is for that. Because if you do that, if you build that road for the next 5 years, it will keep their companies engaged. It will be good for the economy, and each of the countries going to give them a loan, and in the process, it's a win-win for China and also those countries also. So it has excess capacity. If you now look from, so they are exploiting their excess capacity. They have built a port in Sri Lanka. They are trying to build roads in Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal. So that is where their strength lies. It's also important to also understand at some point what does India has in good capacity. For us, yes, any thoughts?
So I think intellectual capital is one.
Yes, intellectual capital, demographic dividend, a large youth population who can work. And for us, manufacturing is not one of the strongest points. Yes, it is growing now. In the last 10 years, it has grown quite a lot. But then the industry where which the world identifies India with is the IT back office of the world. So, and IT is such a beautiful thing that you really don't need to be there in that country, and you can be the back office for many other IT services, even for the tutoring services, which can be delivered online. We see a lot of people engaged as online tutors for say students in Europe, in the Middle East, in America, and other places. So, when we talk about this digital public infrastructure, India has very good capacity in that area. Not only from some of the organizations which are building it as of now, like iSprint, but also the companies like say TCS, Wipro, Infosys, and those ones, they have very good capacity to take some of those stacks, like say what we call the India stack, and then build upon them. So India stack is just given the need. It's basically a stack on which you can build anything. There is not it's irrespective of any country. Say if you have everything else is the country independent, the only thing which might be country specific is that when we talk about Aadhaar thing, the chapter Aadhaar file. So the Aadhaar can be replaced with any other identity platform, like MOSIP or any one of them. And the mobile network you can basically integrate with any other mobile network or mobile phone. And then you can also integrate with any other financial service provider. The jam community is there in India. All these aspects can be replaced by other things. And that is where IT companies will play a major role. If say India stack has to be customized for South Africa, what are the steps that are required for that? And India is very well placed, given that they have done it for several companies here. They are very well placed to take advantage of that and then build it for that country. Maybe a custom product. So you already take something that is open source that India is using, but then the services company can get subsequent businesses from customizing it for a country. So you take something base that is open source and then customize. So it's a win-win for both the parties. I think that is the sweet spot that India is also working with because if you see IT services in general, it's plateauing to some level. The Western country in the US, where our major customer base lies, a lot of the companies have already digitized their services. So it's time now to go and explore, in other countries as we look into it. So these are all the opportunities that we see from that perspective as we look into the world. And everyone is looking to say transform their hospital infrastructure into a hospital infrastructure, their education into digital education, so that it's not just classroom education, but you can also augment it with other things that are lying on top of them. So these are some of the points we see. The recent G20, as we mentioned, was a very good opportunity for India also, because there was a whole area. So there are several topics that were there in G20, and one of the subtopics of G20 was DPI, digital public infrastructure, and how the digital public infrastructure has been developed in India uh, can be scaled out to other nations. Right? And it is also a win-win for both the countries. So there are a lot of discussions that has happened on this front, and India is taking a good step through G20, which was a starting point, following up on those initiatives with countries to follow up on some of those aspects. There is also discussion on the challenges that we face. If you want to touch upon something on the challenges that India might face in the region, looking other countries that might want to occupy this space or any other sort of challenges.
Well, as of now, I don't see too many challenges because China has been exposed like never before. So because of its stable economy, stable and consistent. When you compare Indian politics with other countries, I would say it's the most stable. There is there are anarchist elements who want to rake up issues which are not relevant. But I think it has been the most consistent economy. It has been the most stable political economy, I would say. So at this point of time, and our diplomacy, even though it is, often diplomatic successes of the last many years can easily be percolated down to digital diplomacy. For example, when you talk about Quad, are you aware of Quad? Most of you, few of you. Yeah. So the Quad alignment, even though that was largely to protect the geopolitical interests, can easily be utilized to promote the digital success of India. And when it comes to choosing between the US and India from the Quad countries, I'm sure the success of UPI, the unprecedented success of UPI, which at this point of time records 10 billion transactions per month, India holds a clear advantage. India, pre 2014, we have been used to seeing our vast population as a disadvantage. Somewhere, in the last few years, our population has turned out to be an advantage because that is how big a market we provide to the world. That is how big an experience we give to the world. For example, US combating COVID pandemic with a population of 34 crore and India doing it successfully with a population 4 times its size clearly gives India an advantage vis-a-vis, US. So when other third world countries have to choose between US and India, they would obviously, our vast population, the scale at which we have implemented and operated things gives a clear advantage. So honestly, I don't see much of a challenge there. I think our challenge should be ideally to utilize the momentum and take these changes to another level. So, for example, I keep interacting with a wide section of people, and somebody was just some very interesting ideas come by. So, when you talk about digital economy, obviously that has reduced black money, laundered money. Now, somebody came up to me with this idea and spoke on a similar mechanism for property, as in a property demat. wherein all your properties get linked with the Aadhaar card so that whatever Benami property exists in the country can be done away with. So I think our challenges should be focused on taking these changes to another level. Because honestly, in the this is a favorable situation for India in the world, and I don't see any challenge because we have been very open, we have been very candid in thwarting China's expansionist designs and simultaneously creating our own apparatus of PLI schemes. I think that challenge is also largely taken care of. Our Hamas, Pakistan has been, decimated to a level where they can't create problems for us immediately. So I think it's a good time, and our challenges are largely focused, should largely be focused around how we can better our own efforts.
Thanks for that. I think the next aspect that comes is on the digital diplomacy part. And we spoke about the G21 and also trusting a country with whom you can do business and you can trust that country's ecosystem and the software that they are using. I think that becomes very crucial in there. You have seen aspects of, and I keep taking the example of China because when you are on the international stage, you are basically competing with China on various levels. You have seen how devices made by Huawei have seen to data from the places that they have been installed. So that was something that came, I think, a couple of years back. But that has taken China back several years. There is also a wide space or opportunity in the devices market, even though we still have Google and largely the Chinese Korean manufacturers who are capturing that space, but there's also a huge space lying there from Indian side. So we don't have large companies from India either making telecom devices or mobile phones on those aspects, but there's a huge opportunity there because when you import hardware devices, even say cars for general, cars are not just mechanical instruments. It also has a lot of digital instruments there which are actually tracking every point where the car is traveling, what is happening at every point in time. So a lot of digital have penetrated with every aspect of online. I mean, you see smart homes, the devices in the smart homes are there. But here we see primarily countries that from China, Japan, and South Korea are taking the lead in the home appliances market. So even though there are some of digital public infrastructure which India is doing well, which is backed by the government side, but I think there are also opportunities in many other sectors like the home appliances sector, automobile sector, which also India can capture. So opportunity lies on several fronts. We have the Indian companies like the Tatas or Mahindras going into that space, but I think their market share is still very minuscule, as we say. Yeah.
As I see it, we are heading towards a largely bipolar world. On the one hand will be the Chinese slash radicalized nexus, the communist slash radicalized nexus, and it is a very strange combination. Communists and radicalized groups or nations which support radicalization are coming together. Now, on the other hand, you have the larger league of progressive democracies, which includes in India, which includes US, which includes Japan, which includes Australia, which includes most of Europe. So I think for you guys, the possibilities are infinite. When we talk about, our migration to other countries increasing every year, you should also look at it from a positive point of view. Today, Indians are in a position to provide leadership, corporate leadership, or even political leadership in most of these countries. So I think sooner than later, we are going to witness global citizens in a real sense. In fact, since I travel a lot, it is very amusing to see, in hotels, the number of foreigners staying on a regular basis is increasing every time. And I'm sure it's happening with Indians also abroad. they see more and more Indians over there. So, but yes, I mean, I am being very forthright about this distinction between the two worlds which is shaping up, and which unfortunately or unfortunately is the way, at least for the next 10 decades. So even on the way countries have reacted on the Israel, you know, the Israel bombing, you would see the difference between countries which have clearly stood for Israel and countries which are still in that communist slash radicalized combo mode. And I think the bigger chunk is the one of progressive democracies, where you will see an even more robust cohesion of business interests, economic interests, of digital initiatives, and that gives India a huge advantage in which.
Yes, so good. I think let us stop for a while and take some questions from the students here and hear what their views are. Can be a question, a comment, or sharing the view. Yes, please.
Good morning, sir. My name is Avik Sarkar from the batch of 25. I have a question for Tuhin, sir. So, in the context of digital diplomacy, we are seeing that more or less board expressing their views on different topics on Twitter, which is known as X currently. So, we saw recently that when President Modi supported Israel in the ongoing Hamas and Israel. I want to ask, has India finally dehydrated the Israel-Palestine conflict? And has it not now gone totally to open support?
There are two aspects to it. One, India has always had a very unequivocal stand against terror. So the moment you have, employed terror of this magnitude, and even now, as we sit over here, probably in the next 24 hours, the next 48 hours, you will keep hearing of the worst that we have not known yet. So the moment you employ terrorism, your cause gets defeated. That's number one. Number two, this dehyphenation happened way back in 2017. But for the first time, Prime Minister Modi visited Israel. He also separately visited Palestine. So the Palestinians who believe in peaceful means to achieve their causes, which is the other part of, not the Hamas part of it. I don't know how many of you have been to Israel. Since I have been there for a week. Even Palestine has two parts of it: the eastern part and the Gaza Strip. Gaza Strip is, if you ask me, it is no different from an ISIS Harvard place. So for this kind of a terror activity, India will have zero tolerance. And this is not the time, honestly, to reiterate Palestine rights, because when 1,000 people are butchered, slaughtered, I think unless the world takes an unequivocal stand against terror, I don't know what the future of the world will be.
Thank you. Yes, over here.
Morning, sir. Digital one concern and one major challenge is the data protection, data privacy. So for that, the government recently launched the data protection bill. What do you think will be the implications of that bill over the next few years?
So that's a very good and nice question that you asked. The data protection bill has been there for quite some time. If you know the genesis of it, it started after the Equitable Government was passed in 2016, August 2016, telling that privacy is a fundamental right. From independence till 2016, privacy or right to privacy was not a fundamental right. And in 2016, it became a fundamental right to lead a law or a bill to protect our fundamental right of privacy. And then Ministry of IT set up a committee to start working on that. Came up with the first draft in 2018, the updated draft in 2019, which was moved to the Joint Parliamentary Committee, which took 2 years, and in 2021, December, it told that there are about 90 changes to it. And after that, a new version came up in 2022. It was passed this year. So there is a lot of background to it also. It moved from a 150-page document to a 90-page document to now a 30-page one. So it was very specific at one point in time, but businesses started thinking about it because it's additional cost to the business to take care of the privacy of the data. So a lot of the things have been kept interpretable at this moment, which is not good. I think the initial versions are much better because you are very specific about what will happen or what will not. There are data breach and things of that nature mentioned. But I think we are at a very early stage now because only the law has been passed. How it will be operationalized and on what date it will be applicable in India. I think those are some of the things that are yet to be rolled out or decided by the Data Protection Authority that we form. So we see a new Data Protection Authority being formed in India that will take care of the data which is captured by any private player. Very interesting thing that this bill has done. It has kept the government itself out of. So the government is not liable for any breaches, which is, I think, a weak point. If data breach happens, either by a government entity or a private entity, equal law should apply. But both state government and central government have been kept out of it. Which is it's a big loophole, but I think we have to think with what law is required. We have something.
So I think the act, it has become an act, it was passed in office. So I think at the core of it, I know is certain things, protection of individual rights and, and ensuring that it doesn't get misused by the companies which are procuring it. So I think the capability is always the same. Like, so, Dr. Sarkar. I just wanted to ask, since it's you call it Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, is there a subject on foreign policy also? Ideally, if you delve into foreign policy, that would help you decode the foreign policy of the last 9 years. That would also help you decode a lot of the possibilities which have been created. Because ideally, since it is foreign trade, that would be my humble suggestion to your institution also. That a slight subject on foreign policy could be there. For the last 9 years, India's foreign policy has been so multifaceted, it has been so complex that at the core of it has been to create business opportunities and safeguard our national interests. So when you talk about who would have imagined that Saudi Arabia would be one of our closest trading partner, who would have imagined that India would take away the advantage over Africa from China? So I think, my humble suggestion to all of you would be there are books, a collection of essays which on India's foreign policy and each of the aspects where we have kind of been unconventional. Yes, sorry, you had a question.
Sir, I'm Akshay Kumar. I have a question.
Akshay Kumar.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The basically is just around 77%. On the one hand, we are consistently increasing the digital infrastructure. While on the other hand, the gap and the reach of those digital infrastructure is not enough. What's your take on the inclusivity going along with the digital?
So that's you can hear me? Yes, you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
So I think that remains a challenge. It's not only in India, it's for the whole world. When we develop digital products, we look at it, we develop them. So there's something called as user specs, collecting the user specifications. The specifications are for a certain type of users. So say you download an app, you have to read 10-page terms of conditions before using the app. None of us read it, but we expected that you will be able to do it. So the digital, so it's not only in India, it's for the whole world. We have not to that wrong. All weird. And the digital apps or the digital world that has been developed, mostly developed are for the weird population. What is weird is the acronym. We are in the acronym of Western Educated, Industrialized, Rich, and Democratic. WEIRT, weird. So, digital apps and whole digital development is happening for based on the weird population. Even in America, you see applications have been developed keeping in mind the white male. The black female is always ignored in the use cases of the user crisis. In India, if you translate it, it's for the I'm taking that example for the upper caste educated people, possibly the lower caste or the religions which are neglected are not taken into the consideration when developing this app. And the needs of each of these people can be very different. We often don't take that. In India, the problem becomes even manifold because out of the 1.4 billion, only say 200 million, a very small percentage, less than 2%, can properly understand or read English in the free flowing thing. We are all fortunate to be in that 10% of India. For the rest 90% understand, maybe they can be intelligent, but they might not be able to read a one pager in English. But that becomes the first uh, hurdle that they have to pass to prove that they are knowledgeable or intelligent or even valued in today's digital world. So that is a huge barrier which is there. A lot of digital apps are not there in some are there in Hindi, but if someone who doesn't know how to read well also, because often say I read Hindi, but if you tell me very pure Hindi, I might just stammer over there. So there are challenges in there. So someone might be very good in say reading Bengali or the Gujarati, but speaking might be about. So there's a range of challenges that comes in. Again, people with disabilities, there are this big aspect that is there. So that is why I think when we are trying to develop these technologies, particularly the Aadhaar and the Jam Trinity for India, our understanding, the Indian government understanding is that if we can go to the last person in India, then we would have championed the ways in which this technology can be used even at the grassroots level. But that is what the aim is. So UPI was started initially for only with smartphones. It realized that there is half of the population which still doesn't use smartphone, they use feature phone. And then UPI on the feature phone was introduced. So these are innovations that have to come. Otherwise, we would have not come up with UPI. Just by instrument, now you can do UPI even without having having to scan something. And then the other thing that has also come up is that a lot of work is going on. Without work in progress is voice-based services. Because people can talk in their own language. If you can provide voice-based advisory or voice-based services, that will be very helpful. We also touched upon the common service center in the bank correspondent. You might not, you can work hard and earn money, but you don't understand how a bank operates. But still, can you store your money in a bank? So previous people had that mental block that people in the bank talk a different language. Maybe they talk only in English. I cannot interact with them. So every correspondent will come with a machine and they will identify you through your Aadhaar card number, through your digital finger. So then you can deposit money, even if you have also having to pay in the last 1 week, you can deposit that money with the bank correspondent. The bank correspondent will put it in your account while he or she goes back. You can also withdraw money to if another person has a need for withdrawing from they can do that. Bank correspondent. See, the bank always has been an aspect which the person directly operates. But in India, there was a need for a layer called a bank correspondent. It's called the BC in short form. Bank correspondent evolved as an innovation. So all the large public banks like the SBI or Bank of Baroda or anyone, we will have bank correspondent who will go to the interior villages areas and they will also come. The example that again, someone doesn't have to come to the bank to withdraw all that money. So these services are available and these are innovative models that have been developed. So often what we try and see is that because a lot of digital innovation happens in the West for the weird population, we expect that it's everything will be the same that we'll copy. Google has tried it, Facebook has tried it, Microsoft has tried it, IBM has tried it. They have failed. Or particularly the rural hinterland of India, you need to have significant innovation in your product for the Indian perspective. A lot of the companies are doing that innovation now because they see it not only solving it for India, but they're solving it for the global south, where the huge opportunity lies.
Sir, due to paucity of time, only last two questions.
Okay, sure.
Uh, my question is regarding what has happened recently in the backdrop of during the with the growing tensions between India and Canada. There was a news that the Canadian army website was hacked by undercover Indian hackers. So, it is a great pace when the digitalization is happening and hardly any, there is absolutely no sector which is under. Should we slow down a bit because we still don't claim to have a system that is undefeatable. Systems can be hacked. So, is the government in any way with reluctance in putting everything like every egg in one basket in the internet? Because they think that in some certain sectors like army and military, that can be disastrous. That's good. When you internet is like it's like an ocean. It's a sea. So once you are stranded in it, you can't come. You can't. There is no way you can be pulled out. You have to swim your way out of it. Unfortunately or fortunately, India can't slow down. India can only make its protective mechanism more robust. Make sure that the safeguards are in place to ensure that we have an apparatus to combat the hackers. We have a system in place to ensure that safety is ensured in all our important websites and data systems. I think that's the only way forward because you can't move back at this point of time. It's like internet itself is a war zone. So
I think just 2 3 things. Last 1 week, there was a statement by Songa, the chairman of ISRO, that every day there are 100 plus cyber attacks on the ISRO website. So this is very common line. If you are there, if you are anyone of importance, people will try to attack you from anything. Be it internet, be you become famous in any way, you become wealthy in your own locality, that is going to happen. You just have to build your defense mechanism better.
Concept of we have been talking about Bharat being Atmanirbhar since 2020, and one of the key aspects is developing intelligent brands of mobiles. As mobiles are instrumental in developing physical, like enabling Bharat digital. But we haven't come up with homegrown brands. What's your take on that? Because still Samsung or Apple are the non-Chinese brands we have to eventually do for it.
I think everybody has a fetish for these brands, that's number one. But as long as they're being locally manufactured, I think that's a huge change which has happened in the last few years. Most of them are now being completely locally manufactured. Apple has also started local manufacturing. So I think you can't change brand preferences of people. And I think everybody's entitled to their brand preferences. If Indian brand does not attain that cult status, it's perfectly fine because at the end of the day, that's all which individual habits or their influence.
Yeah, so I just add on one, maybe we'll just talk on my mind to that. Interesting. This development also requires a huge R&D. If you see the countries in China and South Korea, they are investing heavily in the R&D for another 20 years. So if you say if you want to something even more critical, there is only say China and Taiwan and AMD in the US, which are champions in that. And today, mobile is just one aspect. If you go into digital, you need semiconductor and everything, and we are dependent on semiconductors so badly. But only recently Vedanta has started to put in research there. But only these are such deep fields that if you start research now, you might see the output in 10 years' time. But we are very proud of our democracy, but that's also a shortfall of democracy. In democracy, the leaders have to deliver those things which are shortly. You have to look at 5 years time. Of that model,
we are rightly not Canadian model as well, because in the one team or one not right to statement, you can plan for 3 years, 20 years. In some cases, democracy has its law, because you have to show results in 5 years. Currently, results of the doing chip manufacturing cannot be shown in 5 years. The government of today tells that I am putting half of my budget into chip manufacturing. People will tell it's a poor country, you should give money for education, you should give money for healthcare. Why you are doing something which we will not see the light of the day in the next 5 years? People look at short-term things, so that's also a challenge. Might not understand the value of long-term research. Because a lot of the development that say R&D basis around it and R&D for innovation, you need to spend 10, 20 years. Why we in India, the country, are not so good in the world research ranking? Because we do not value our Indian institutions so deeply like what China or US does. So if you want to really become a leader, you have to also invest a lot in R&D, which you do not see the results in 40 years. See the results in 20 years, 30 years time. You will add something to very strong. India is moving towards that. India will also have the same ruler or the same party for many years.
But the rulers will have now to the people ask for vote, like China.
I think democracy has always been a winner. If you look at it, the regimes which don't have democracy also don't have many other rights or don't have the quality of life which the freedom that we have.
Yeah. I'm not just how they come to.
One is
Somebody has.
Morning, sir. I'm Harshal Vasudia from the batch of 25. Sir, can you throw some light on the role of social media in the age of digital diplomacy? As we can see, governments across the world have come in with support or against of the ongoing war. And my second question is, as you rightly said that India is one of those stable economies in the world. Then there are some of the people who try to go against the same. So, do you think there should be regulations on the same on the social media applications?
two things like to say over here, which can also sum up the entire thing. In the age of social media, the gap between education versus ability, the distinction between education versus ability has become very glaring. So today, to be especially when it comes to performing arts, you don't necessarily need to be in Mumbai to be counted as an actor. There are people who have created or become sensations by creating fantastic videos elsewhere. So while it is easy to break in, the competition is that much more and survival becomes that much more difficult. So for this generation and for the generations coming after this, the unlearning part becomes more important than the learning part. And I think you will all need to learn to break the rules without breaking the law. I think you'll have to mull over it more. Use them, but probably it will take 1 hour to explain the whole thing. But learn to break the rules without breaking the law. What was the second aspect? The second.
Should there be regulations on the social media posts or tweets of the people who are creating records for no reason?
I think that is an individual choice. You reject them. Because there are warriors for freedom of speech. Even though freedom of speech has to come with certain responsibilities. So I was asking this to a few of your colleagues who were there. Between somebody who has a vision for the next 25 years and between somebody who wants to keep you trapped in the caste wars, I think it is you who have to make a choice, and that choice has to be made on social media as well.
So I'm good at that. That summarizes the whole discussion very well. In just of time, I'm good at it. There are no further questions.
On behalf of IIFT fraternity, Vivaan and Public Policy Club, we extend our heartfelt thanks to our esteemed guest, Dr. Avik Sarkar and Mr. Tuhin A for the thought-provoking discussion on the topic of India's digital diplomacy in sustainable. Throughout the course of our discussion, we have gained insight on how digital public infrastructure is indispensable in our day-to-day lives and how it will impact on growth of our economy. And also, you have touched upon the Jandan, Aadhaar, and mobile, and Digi Yatras, and India's initiatives like Global Solar Alliance and Biofuel Alliance to potential in boost India's international hegemony in this polarized world. So you talked about the white spaces in which India has to work upon to fill the gaps of digital infrastructure. Finally, I would like to extend our gratitude once again and proceed the Mapon to Mrs. Spot Ogunapana. Yeah.
Let's compare this. That's immediately. Since we started off at 8:15, no one's we are actually off the notes. Settle down, settle down. First you settle down. शूज है किसी को कोई शूज है खाना नहीं खाया ना बैठ लो भी नहीं खाना तो वही दिनों उसके बाद ही खाना हो हाँ
गाइस, जो भी वॉशरूम जा रहा है अगले 5 मिनट में अंदर चाहिए, ठीक है? खाना खाने कोई नहीं जाएगा अभी। बंदा आ गया। That is not a good habit. तो बोलूँ है ना हेडेक है तो गाँव में बेचना है खाना खाने का नहीं हो पाएगा भैया सीधे बोलना है कहना सीधे बजे कितना मिलेगा लक्ष्मण मिनट अरे उसको बैठाने देते बैटरी को बुलाओ पहले तो वो बैठे किसका कागज का ना कौन कौन बैठो में कंफर्म कर और उन्हें तो भाई कल से नहीं आ रहा भाई नॉट भाई इनके पहले इनके एसएसएस को बोले तुम्हारे जितने साथी को तो दोगे तो बड़े गए ज़्यादा दिक्कत ना हो उनकी बात नहीं है टाइम पर खड़ी और एक तो मैं खाने के लिए बोला